you join us for the final round of what has been quite a remarkable 2015 FF2M season, because 5 drivers can still win the championship with just one feature race and one sprint race to go. The contenders. The 2 Gajera 2 drivers of James Clark and Max Verstappen. Now, Clark is actually on 70 points, but why that says 72 gives you a big clue as to who's qualified on pole position for this race at Monza. Max Verstappen sits second on 65 points, but he's been doing his best to try and lose the championship, having led it for so long. Third and fourth are Mattia Alfonsi and Väinö Kymmänen, AJ Motorsports and Spaniel drivers respectively. Alfonsi ahead due to the fact that he has a win. And Sam Bird is the outside shot of the championship. So let's go through the grid. 2 of the 5 championship contenders start on the front row, James Clark and Sam Bird. Oliver Rowland is an impressive third for Willows Jr. ahead of the other Gajera 2 of Max Verstappen. Väinö Kymmänen 5th ahead of Esteban Ocon 6th, who's had quite a dreadful season. Jolyon Palmer in the other AJ Motorsports is 7th ahead of teammate Alfonsi. Cristobal Alvarez, winner of the Red Bull Ring sprint race, starts 9th ahead of Nicholas Latifi, 10th. Daniel Kvyat is 11th ahead of Genji Jose in 12th in the other Spaniel. Then the sensation of Spa, Caterina Caracciola, 13th ahead of Mitch Evans in 14th, who's had an impressive season. Sergei Sorokin is 15th ahead of Pierre Gasly, 16th. Nick Yaloli is 17th ahead of Pascal Wehrlein in 18th. And then the last 4, they consist of Roberto Merri in the GRM Junior, Rio Haryanto in the Danish Racing Team 20th, and then the back row Robin Freins 21st for Liquid Target, and Oliver Turvey in the other GRM Junior 22nd. So the 5 lights are on, and a big pause before. 5 lights are out in the final final feature race of the season, and Clark has gotten away well, but it's a long run down to the Rettifilio chicane, and there's always incidents here. There's some tyre smoke in the background. Who on earth was locking up there? Look at Kymmänen storming up the inside and making big contact with Clark and Bird. Bird shortcuts the chicane, and Clark is in trouble already. And look at that massive, massive traffic jam. We've seen red flags before in FF2M at Monza, but I don't think they're going to plan such a thing this time around. So let's see that. Kymmänen storming up the inside, and let's see Jolyon Palmer getting biffed and spun round by quite a lot of other drivers. So let's try and dissect the first lap now. We've got Bird, Kymmänen, Verstappen 3rd, and with Clark way down the order, that is going to benefit Verstappen enormously. Alfonsi making contact with the other OLM driver of Mitch Evans, and he's spun into the gravel. That's Alfonsi in trouble, and Latifi nearly making contact with another driver, and Mitch Evans, that is the other OLM driver off. And in the background, we can see that's an STV making a move. That's Caracciola, who made her debut at Spa last time out and sensationally won. Now she's making a move on one of the Magnum drivers into the Parabolica and making that one stick. Now, some tyre information. 7 drivers took softs for qualifying, which means they'll have to run sprints. Here isn't one of those on the... Well, it's Alvarez making a rash move on Ollie Rowland, jumping the chicane, both of them, and Rowland spins somehow. And it was Nick Yaloli, the other Magnum Force driver, who got overtaken by Caracciola, and Latifi confirmed as out of the race. And look at that, more contact into the Rettifilio. They should not be racing under yellow flags. It looks like a GRM Junior driver and a Liquid Target. And let's see, this is what happened to Nicholas Latifi. And he's under pressure from Jolyon Palmer and his own teammate, and off into the gravel, and smashing into the barriers goes the Canadian, who is going to be driving in FF2M next season. Here's an onboard view of that. That is Palmer lurking up the inside, it was his own teammates that collided with him, Rio Haryanto, causing the retirement of Nicholas Latifi in this feature race. Now we've got Spaniel making a move round the outside of one of the OLM drivers. This is Kymmänen versus Bird for the race lead. Kymmänen yet to score a win this season, but he's challenging Bird quite hard into the Roger chicane and making a mistake under braking. And is this going to give Max Verstappen an opportunity at the exit? Verstappen's got a bit of a run, good traction. Verstappen taking 2nd position. And with Clark so far down the order, that is going to help Verstappen's charge enormously, unless Kymmänen can do something about Verstappen going into the Ascari chicane. Verstappen choosing not to defend so far, and that is probably sensible, but Verstappen making a mistake going off the track, and that's going to put him under pressure from Cristobal Alvarez and Daniel Kvyat going down the back straight into the Parabolica. There is Sam Bird with a much more comfortable lead now. Who is going to make the move? It looked like Kvyat on Alvarez, but Alvarez now out the inside into the Parabolica, and still side by side as they go through the long right-hander, but Verstappen hanging on, and Alvarez trying to slot in between Verstappen and Kvyat, but now Kvyat's got a good run. He's taken Alvarez already around the outside, but he's now boxed in behind Max Verstappen, down the main straight into the Rettifilio chicane, and Alvarez has contact between himself and Verstappen, and all three of them are off. And is that going to hand Esteban Ocon the opportunity? But Verstappen hangs on to third, and Kvyat and Alvarez look to be stranded, as Genjo said, sets the fastest lap of the race. And that's going to reshuffle the order quite a bit more. There's Nick Yaloli up in 7th, which is dizzying for him, but he's under pressure from Sorokin into the Roger. Off goes Yaloli, and back onto the track, nearly causing an accident. And there's Yaloli's teammate Pierre Gasly coming up alongside into the first Lesmo, but not enough traction there. Here's Oliver Turvey, here's Jolyon Palmer. Is there going to be an incident into the Roger chicane? There is contact, and spin goes Palmer, and off goes Yaloli. And Palmer has made a breakfast of that one, as Mitch Evans makes a move into the Roger chicane. That's a position gain for the Kiwi. That was on one of the liquid targets. I think Yaloli is having a go back at Gasly going into the Parabolic. I think Gasly actually got past Yaloli at some point into the Ascari chicane, probably. And Pascal Wehrlein sets a new fastest lap of the race. He's made his way up the order up to 5th position now, behind Bird, Kimmonen, Verstappen and Ocon, as they go down the main straight. 3 wide between the two Magnum Forces and the Spaniel of C, or C, however you like to pronounce it, and they're all off at the Rettifilio chicane, and C getting scared a bit onto the curb. So now he's dropped back a bit behind the two Magnum Force drivers, and it looks like Nick Yaloli is going to try and make a move on Pierre Gasly going into the Roger chicane. That's a narrow one up the inside. Is there going to be contact? Gasly was scared had to take to the runoff, and that's given Yaloli the position. Now, look at that. That's James Clark storming his way past the field, taking both Say and Pierre Gasly for 9th position. Now his next target is Nick Yaloli. Clark storming his way back up the order after that first lap calamity. And I think just behind this slot is one of the JRM junior drivers. Could be Oliver Turvey. Now, we have got Clark defending from Pierre Gasly into the Ascari chicane. Sensible racing between the two, good racing between the two. Now Gasly's coming under pressure from Say, the Spaniel driver, as his teammate sets the new fastest lap on the 4th lap of the race. Kimmonen looked to reignite his charge, trying to take the lead of the race off Sam Bird, but it's Wehrlein who now sets the fastest lap as Gasly versus Say at Parabolica. They both were overtaken by the JRM junior driver, so an impressive move there from, I'm going to assume it's Oliver Turvey, but it could be Roberto Merri. And they're still battling away going into the Rettifilio chicane. That looks like Gasly up the inside of the JRM Junior, who gets tagged from the back by, that would have been Genjo Say, who is taking to the grass inexplicably after having recovered onto the circuit, losing a position to Roberto Merri and nearly Rio Haryanto. Now, this is a battle for 8th position and potentially pole position for the sprint race. James Clark versus Nick Yaloli, and he's trying to dummy up the inside into Ascari. And James Clark, he's shoving Yaloli off onto the curb, but they're still side by side as they go through Ascari, and Yaloli hanging on. Another new fastest lap for Väinö Kimmonen on the 5th lap. And it is still Sam Bird who holds a 2-second lead over Kimmonen, Verstappen 3rd, Ocon 4th. But once again, Wehrlein sets the fastest lap, which is immediately not eclipsed, but taken over by Caracciola, the Swiss driver from Montreux. So she's making heads into the race lead now. Sergei Sorokin, the other Shake and Bake junior driver, is 7th, teammates with Pascal Wehrlein. And then this battle for 8th between Nick Yaloli and James Clark. Looked like he'd missed the apex, did you, Lolly? And that is going to become under pressure from Clark into the Roger chicane. That's a bit of a rash move from Clark, who tags Lolly onto the runoff. Clark then takes to the runoff slightly inexplicably. But the driver from Altrincham is up into 8th position. Now Lolly's got to be careful because he's got 2 GRM Junior drivers stalking up to the back. There's one of them, Oliver Turvey, and then Turvey's teammate Roberto Merri in 11th position, ahead of Genjo Se, who is trying to mount some sort of recovery. Outside, then the inside. Oliver Turvey versus Nick Lolly into the Ascari chicane. And let's see how this one goes. And off the track again goes Lolly, and losing the position to Turvey. So that's 9th position for Oliver. One of 2 Olivers in this race, the other one being Oliver Rowland. And he's way down the order, having also been caught up in that first lap melee. Now then, what's Genjo Se up to? Making it 3 wide into the Parabolica. That's not going to work at all, but somehow it does. And now he's trying to get up alongside Oliver Turvey for 9th position now. Meanwhile, Sam Bird holds 1.4 second lead over Väinö Kimminen in 2nd position. Verstappen quite lonely there in 3rd position, but he's got Ocon to worry about. And look at that, Roberto Merri shunting into his own teammate at the Rettifilio chicane, and that has completely ruined GRM Junior's race. And Genjo Se once again getting caught up in that action, as he's now got Pierre Gasly and Jolyon Palmer somewhere behind him. And look at this battle between Lolly and Se. That's not going to end well. It hasn't ended well. Both into the gravel. And the Chinese driver looks to be... well, he's going to try and rejoin. Meanwhile, we've got a battle for 4th position between Esteban Ocon and Pascal Wehrlein. And up the inside, Wehrlein up to 4th for Shake and Bake Jr. And just behind these two, Caterina Caracciola. Let's see what she can do, who she won Spa last time out, despite surviving a very hairy collision with Sergei Sorokin at the Eau Rouge Radion complex. Sorokin's running wide meant that he couldn't quite reignite his challenge to take a win for Shake and Bake Jr. Just in front of this trio now is Max Verstappen, 10.4 seconds off of the race lead. Here is Caracciola, looking to challenge Esteban Ocon, who defends quite hard. We've seen incidents here in the race so far, and inside, and shoving Ocon off onto the grass, and rather rudely taking 5th position is Caracciola, who's going to come into the pits this lap for a pit stop. She's one of the first to pit at Spa, but now Ocon's going to come back. He's not happy with the way Caracciola been driving. And Ocon going to retake 5th position off of the Swiss driver, but Caracciola hanging on, but she's going to make way into the pits, as is Väinö Kimminen. So, just before half distance, and we're seeing pit stops. There's Kimminen on, well, it looks like softs. I think that is actually correct. The tyre rules for FF2M, whichever compound you take in qualifying, you must take in the sprint as well. And then the reverse compound for the feature race. So 7 drivers took softs for qualifying, which means that they're on hards for the sprint race, but then they'll be back to softs for the for the feature race, and then they'll be back for the softs on sprint race. Meanwhile, we've got Alfonsi making his recovery drive up to 8th position now, but pit stops are underway, so some of these positions may be a little bit false. Pascal Wehrlein 3rd, challenging Max Verstappen for 2nd. This is not false, this is a genuine battle for position on track. Into the Parabolica, and into 2nd position goes Pascal Wehrlein, although he's quite a way behind Sam Bird now, who's looking good to take a massive chunk out of James Clark's championship lead. As Oliver Turvey comes into the pits, Verstappen's going to come back at Wehrlein. It's a slipstream race between these two. Clark is in the pits this lap. You can see on the red indicator on Verstappen's car that his teammate is going to come into the pits as Väinö Kimminen sets a fastest lap on new tyres, 1:27.9. And there's confirmation of Clark into the pits as Caracciola sets a new fastest lap on new tyres. So once again, she's showing some speed that she showed at Spa. Didn't quite show that in the sprint race, finished 11th, but quite a debut for the Swiss driver. 9th position Clark, but some drivers still have to make a pit stop. That is a Shake Mick Jr. of Sorokin coming up to him, and he needs to keep this position, stay ahead of Sorokin, Although you're on new tyres, so even if you get overtaken by the driver from Shake and Bake Jr., you can still regain it pretty quickly on new tyres. There's been an incident at the second Lesmo, or is that the Ascari? We've got Pascal Wehrlein due into the pits this lap, making a move on Verstappen. It's going to get close. It's got too close. Contact, and off to the gravel, and having a spin goes Pascal Wehrlein. And where is Verstappen in amongst that? I think he's gotten away with it, just about. Now Wehrlein, having made his pit stop, is making his way past one of the GRM junior drivers, but he's way down the order now, having made that costly, rash manoeuvre. Into the pits comes Sam Bird. Now, there's only 12 laps to go, so he's left this quite late, and he should be able to maintain the lead, because he had quite a lead over the competition. 4.9 seconds stop, that's pretty quick as well. Into the pits comes Verstappen. In fact, Kimmonen's jumped him! Vino Kimmonen has jumped Sam Bird for the race lead, and that is important for the championship, because Kimmonen's still in there. He is in amongst the championship mix, and if he can take a win, then that will benefit himself greatly. As Verstappen rejoins behind Esteban Ocon, so that's 5th position for Max Verstappen, but still crucially ahead of James Clark. Now, Wehrlein is going to make more contact at Ascari with one of the liquid targets, and he's trying to mount the liquid target there. I think it's Daniel Kvyat. If not, then it's Robin Freins. We're having a look at Oliver Turvey, making some sort of move on, it looks like, Nick Yaloli. Now, those two have dropped way down the order, so their earlier pace hasn't really paid off as Wehrlein makes a move on Roland for... No, it's actually to unlap himself from Esteban Ocon. Lots of drivers way out of position. And where is Alvarez in amongst that? I can't remember what's happened to him. He got caught up in an incident, I think, at the Ascari corner. So that's why he's not featured in the top 8. It's Vino Kimmonen who leads with just 8 laps to go. There's a battle between Pierre Gasly and that's Mattia Alfonsi. This is for the final point, and pole position for the next race is trying to have a look into the second Lesmo. That's not exactly an overtaking spot. Now he's trying to have a look what will become the outside for the Ascari curve, but he should dummy him. Back into the slipstream. Is there enough of a slipstream to have a look? Well, he's thinking about it up the inside, but Gasly shutting the door, and there's contact between Alfonsi and Gasly. And Gasly just about hanging on to that 8th position. As we have a look at Max Verstappen versus Esteban Ocon for 4th position, going into the Rettifilio, and just behind there's a battle between the liquid target, and I think that's a GRM Junior. No, it's Nick Yaloli. But they're a lap behind these two. Who we got? This is Alvarez. I think it's Alvarez making a move on one of the Danish racing teams for 9th position. So Alvarez recovering, and here's Alfonsi trying to make a similar move. This is on Rio Haryanto for 10th position. The rather sheepish Haryanto, because he did take out his teammate Nicholas Latifi, and Alvarez is right behind Gasly. This is for the final point and pole position for the sprint race. And Kimmonen has got some 4.3 seconds as Alfonsi makes a move on 10th position Haryanto. Now it's 10th position Alfonsi. Let's have a quick recap of the order. It's Kimmonen leading on the penultimate lap as Alvarez is now up the inside of Pierre Gasly, and he's already ahead before they even reach the braking zone of the Rettifilio chicane. That's an important move for himself, because it means that he'll be on pole position for the sprint race. And the last time he was on pole for the sprint race, he won, and that was at the Red Bull Ring. But Gasly's not going to give that one up in a hurry. He's having a look at the inside to Roger. Alvarez defending aggressively, and nearly contact between the two, but not quite, as Kimmonen starts his final lap. He's 4.2 seconds ahead of Sam Bird, as Alfonsi desperately tries to get up to the sprint race. He's pushed himself and Haryanto off the track at Ascari. But let's have a look at Vino Kimmonen, because he's going to look like he's going to take his first win of the season and propel himself deep into championship contention. There he is, through the Ascari corners. There's this one, and then there's one more corner to go, which is the Parabolica. He's 4.2 seconds ahead of Sam Bird, who should still be in championship contention, but Clark's 6th position might see to that. 72 points for Clark, 59 for Bird. Bird 67, Clark... No, I think Bird might be out of it, but Kimmonen's still in it, and out of the final corner, Vino Kimmonen takes his first win of the season and cements himself as a solid championship contender now. Sam Bircher come home second, but quite an unfortunate second. And it's Katerina Caracciola taking her second podium finish in 3 races. What a debut she's had in FF2M, and she's still got the FF3M season to complete. Verstappen 4th, so should still be in championship contention, although his challenge is fading a bit. Esteban Ocon 5th, that's a good drive considering the season he's had. And Clark 6th, it'll be a nervy showdown. Sergei Sorokin 7th, and Cristobal Alvarez takes 8th. Fastest lap and pole position for the sprint race, but I'm afraid to say Matteo Alfonsi looks to be out of the championship challenge now with that 10th position after a slightly messy drive in front of his home crowd. So here's a look at the championship contentions. Wow, it's now evens between Clark and Kinnunen, and Verstappen has an outside chance in 3rd position. Verstappen will be racing in FF1M next season with Willows, but he'd like to seal it off with a championship, but it looks a bit unlikely, I have to say. It looks as if it's between Clark and Kinnunen, but who knows? Things can change in the sprint race, where Cristobal Alvarez will be starting from pole position ahead of Sergei Sorokin, James Clark 3rd, Max Verstappen 5th, and Väinö Kinnunen 8th. So join us for what should be a very exciting conclusion to the 2015 FF2M Championship.